your brand to fit social media. Make social media work for your brand. Make sense? How's social media different from other forms of communication that we all love? Television, taking magazine trade pub ads out. That stuff goes away. This conversation is public and it's forever. This stat is not going to get lost. What you say is going to stay there. That's something you have to think about when you're developing your strategy. The conversation itself is easy to pass along. We'll go to a new statement. Say you're having a barn-burning sale on something, the wrong product gets put up. All of a sudden, not a group of people got an email. It's going through their Facebook pages, it's going through their LinkedIn pages, and that's bad. The expectations for speed of interaction continues to increase. Touches on the mobile. Facebook, Twitter, Foursquare would not be used at the scale they are if we couldn't do it from our phones. Because we couldn't do it while we were sitting in someone's presentation and falling asleep.
That never happens.
Or standing in line to get a beer. We can now have conversations while we're waiting. It hit a critical mass discussion forum. Everyone remember discussion forums? Or is it just the two nerds standing up here? That's just the two nerds. All right. You don't have to do that anymore. Now Facebook, my grandfather has a Facebook page. Now, he has an alias. He calls himself Gus Klutz because people on the internet are watching. Here's the big monster ball question. Here it is. There is no ROI. How do you establish the value of handing out beer here at a conference? Can you put a number to that? Can you say it's worth that much? No, but you can count how many beers you gave out. That'll tell you how many people were here, or how many people were interested in drinking the beer. So you can assign metrics, but what you don't want to do is start assigning each fan is worth 52 cents. You will just drive yourself batshit trying to come up with it. If Nielsen can't do it, I'm not going to figure it out. He might.
But that's the thing, as he was saying, we talked about that a lot when we were putting this together. Is I don't want to dismiss metrics and the ability to count things and assign a strategy and achievable goals with that there is no ROI. We're just saying that what's customer loyalty worth? What's creating an advocate worth? That person might not turn around and defend you for 5 years, but they will eventually. And what's that worth at that time of crisis when somebody jumps to your defense? So I certainly want you to do things that make sense. I want you to think about the return on what you're putting into this. But realize that they're, just like you said, you're sponsoring an event, you're doing something like that. You can't always tangibilize this. And what happens with new media and new technologies is people overanalyze this stuff and they don't go back and analyze traditional methods. Somebody might think about putting an ad in the newspaper or again sponsoring an event or doing something like this. They don't question it. But then you get to social media and you start dumping resources on it, and people say, well, how is that ROI? And you don't ask those same hard questions about some of the other things you're doing because you've always done. And again, I'm not saying you let a team of 10 people loose on this and not ask any questions. You certainly want to make sure it makes sense what you're doing, and you can measure a lot of things. You can use all the metrics that are attached to social media and web metrics to discover so much more about how it's being used than with a lot of other marketing communications. But it's not we're going to get sales this month, is it worth it or not kind of discussion.
The old joke is marketing is liquor and guessing. Marketing is now liquor and listening. Your audience is talking. Your customers are talking. Your competitors are talking. You can eavesdrop on them. You don't have to guess what they want to hear anymore. They're telling you. Not to put myself out of business, but I'm just listening and I'm reacting to what they're saying. I'm giving them what they want. If they're telling me they're afraid of something, I'm addressing it. Not just on Twitter, on Facebook, but across campaigns. So the message keeps hammering home, but now they're listening. We're all getting tone deaf to messages. But we tune in when we're interested. Now we can find out what they're interested in.
And again, we're trying to use a lot of the points we're talking today to just start the conversation. We're going to have plenty of time to answer some questions and talk through things. We aren't going to cover everything about a B2B strategy or whether you should have consumer strategy in this next slide, but again, the goal is to just start the conversation, so go ahead. You know, we get this a lot. You know, I'm a candy store on the end of the lane. I get how I can use social media. I get how people can talk back and forth. But I'm a B2B company of some sort. How does this work for me? Well, first of all, everybody has a variety of stakeholders that you need to communicate with. And we keep saying consumers or end consumers and things like that. There's other groups. Lots of you guys that have B2B businesses have put up intranets and extranets and different tools to communicate with your dealer channels, distributors, lead customers, people like that. You can use a lot of social media-esque tools to do some of that communication. So that's different than we have a Facebook strategy and Twitter strategy, but using some of the social media tools, you can create some of that same community that you previously might have used intranet or extranet technology to do. So that's one possibility. Again, a B2B company might not develop a Facebook strategy, but you should still be listening. You should still be doing that reputation monitoring. See if people are talking about you, your competitors, your industry, your products. And if they're not, then we'll work on how to start that conversation, but certainly you should know if they are.
That's a really important point, number 3.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is, you know, you all know this and we talk about it all the time, but you know, B2B customers, we use that phrase, what does that really mean, right? I mean, ultimately, this is people that you're selling to. You still have a personal communication with them, it's still people. And you know, we've all had the CRM systems of old where we track people's birthday and their kid's birthday and those kind of things, and you know, they're really impressed if you send them a card telling them, you know, happy anniversary or whatever it is. These are old sales tricks that you tracked in your CRM system, right? Being friends with people on Facebook, being friends with them on LinkedIn, having that real, genuine relationship is just that on steroids, right? I mean, if you know something about these people, they're gonna, you know, buy from you, work with you, have positive feelings about you. But you could never do that before, again, from a scalability standpoint. But now, when you're friends with people on LinkedIn, Facebook, all these things, you can really know when their birthdays are. You can really know when their kids are doing something. You know when their kid won or lost a baseball game, and you can, you know, use that information to develop a real relationship with somebody, and people do business with who they like to do business with. So it's very important, I think, in developing those relationships. It's just now possible. And again, another conversation we've had a lot around web strategy, not as much around social media. This is bigger than that, right? But if you're a B2B company that's always worked through distributors, dealers, et cetera, we've had some scary conversations with companies over the past 10 years about disintermediation and getting rid of their dealer channels and connecting right to their consumers, and they're scared. They're scared of not doing it right with their customers. They're also scared of ticking off their dealer networks and all these other people, because it's such a drastic step to say we're selling direct to consumer. Well, social media is kind of a medium step in there. You're not saying we're going to go in and replace dealers, distributors, et cetera. We're just taking on the charge of maybe communicating to our end consumers that we've never done before, because now it's scalably possible to do. So we're just playing the role of educator. We're going to still send them back to you, dealers and distributors, et cetera, but we're going to take a bigger role in educating them and hearing back feedback from them and doing the things that maybe we wanted to do 50 years ago, but we couldn't figure out a way to do it. So we went to this distributed communication kind of plan through to dealers and distributors. So maybe eventually it'll lead to selling directly to consumer, but I think that's an inevitability for a lot of companies. But this is maybe a less scary step and a good step in developing brand loyalty while not totally having to rely on that intermediate channel.
Another really good point is that it provides a really great avenue to experiment. Before you go out and take all your money and we launch this huge campaign, we go on TV and we buy radio and newspaper. What if nobody likes it? Focus groups were the answer. We don't do that. Okay. Now you can just kind of drip a campaign out, get reactions from before you go buying your outdoor media and your television spots. They still have impact. All those media still have impact, but now you can give them a little bit of a rocket boost in the beginning and test your audience.
Well, that's what's really cool is, I mean, using the web in general, as Jason said, you can try different messages, track with all the tracking behind it, which message is working and delivering people to move around your website more effectively, et cetera. And then you move to that social media transparency kind of level, and it's really like, what if you on your Facebook page post both commercials you're thinking about producing, and just ask them, you know, which one of these, you know us, you use our products, which one of these is us to you, which one of these gets our message across better. People really like that. They like feeling like they're on the inside. They like feeling like you care about their opinion. Everybody always sits around, you know, like I said, the boardrooms and managers going, I wish we knew which one would resonate with them, or they don't even get to that part, and they just start choosing it because they like red, or they like green, or whatever color they're using it, which is the worst reason to make a decision. You want to know what your customers think. We've never had a way to just ask them before. You do now.
The simplest answer is usually the right one, is what he said. Ask. People will tell you what they're thinking. They're not afraid to share opinions, especially when they have a screen between you and them. They're going to give you their honest opinion, not the one that they'll give you standing out in the hallway talking face to face.
Yeah, well, you know, back to our jokes earlier about, you know, Anthony Weiner and all that he's going through this week. I mean, that, for better or for worse, right? People are, you know, I like to call it like impulse shopping. You know, you're buying the candy right at the aisle right before you check out. People are, you know, impulse sharing, you know, with this stuff. I mean, they just aren't thinking, but that's great for us as businesses that, you know, they might not sit down and write a letter in and say, you know, your pizza was not adequate. And, you know, there's a lot of steps in them taking the time to do that. But they share really quickly. And again, it's bad that somebody said something bad about your product or your brand, but it's good that you know it. So people will share, and we need to take advantage of that.
Integrate with your overall marketing. This is where things kind of start to derail, because what happens, everyone gets reactionary. The hottest thing comes out. What the hell do I do with Twitter? Well, why don't you write a strategy? No, just start going. Just start tweeting. Would you go open a business without a business plan? No. Don't get involved in social media unless you have a plan of attack. And that, you want to incorporate your brain. You have to be consistent with all the rules that we learned a long time ago. Consistency, web's easily measured, focus groups. All this can get incorporated into social media. But if you're not strategizing for your 2012 marketing plan, you're not including social media into it, you're not finishing your marketing plan. It has to become part of the discussion of the overall strategy, or it'll fail. It will just fail. No-brainer slide.
Yeah, so this is the most basic slide we have of all of them, but we always find people taking notes during this slide. We're going, dang, I almost had it. You know, if you look at this, you know, this is a nice list of places to market your website, market your social media channels, whatever it is, communicating back to you. Usually we find, every business in the room has forgotten a couple of them. And so we just like to include this list. And again, we're gonna make this presentation available to everybody, but it's just a nice thing to remind yourself that, you know, you can communicate through all these channels. And again, the difference between somebody coming up to your locked door at 5:02 after you've shut your business and going, oh, man, I missed them. And instead of that, having a QR code or a Microsoft tag on the door, they can take a picture of their smartphone and it plays a video that says, we're sorry we missed you, here's da-da-da-da-da. Below me on this mobile screen, there's 6 options you can click to take you to online videos that help you do whatever it is you missed getting here before 5. Just let us help you do, or sign up online for whatever it is you wanted to come there to get. That's a totally different customer experience than pulling on the door and I can't get in and I gotta come back tomorrow. So, you know, we always spend a little bit of time on a slide like this, and we'll spend a lot today. We'll come back in Q&A, but you know, you've seen some of the Microsoft tags out today and the QR codes, those kind of things, and usually we get pretty easily derailed into that conversation. It is a big deal, whatever technology you use for those things. We've been looking for years for ways to get that digital and print bridged so that, you know, people like looking at videos, they like listening to audio, and now with those very inexpensive tags to use in the advent of smartphones, you can really put those all around trade shows. People can capture presentations on their phone, they can bookmark them, show them to people later. It's really a cool thought process, whatever technology you're using to do it, as a way to bridge the gap between print and digital. We can go into
promise not to get on a soapbox about QR codes, but people, to run a trade pub ad, you put a QR code in it. When you scan it, it shouldn't take your customer to a picture of the ad.
No.
Give them something else. Give them something to engage with. It's the next touch point. So that ad you just bought has the possibility of touching them twice, not just once. And then once they click it, and you move them, and you interest them, you know who did it, which is incredibly valuable.
And as Jason said, we often use mobile and social interchangeably because they are so intertwined. I don't think the social media channels that we use today, or QR codes, or any of these other things would be effective if you were carrying a laptop around to scan QR codes. You know, I just don't, it looks sexy, but it's just no, we're not gonna work.